Hi little artists. Today we're going to do a project that we're going to call Intuitive Art. This is inspired by a YouTuber and art teacher called Art Room Glitter Fairy, and she has a great video, but I figured I would make my own just so I could show you some of my own little tweaks and style. But this is a type of abstract art that you can do completely however you want. I'm just going to give you some tips, and then you can just kind of play around and have fun with it. So first I want to show you two examples that I have done of totally different types of intuitive art. This is one that is just full of color, pattern, shape, and this is all used with oil pastel. But just to give you kind of an idea of just sort of the free-flowing abstract idea of it. And this is another one that was inspired by a poem. So I started with a picture of a bird in the middle, and then I just sort of added some free-form kind of things around it, and I even added the poem printed out on strips of paper that I glued on after. So those are two totally different ways of doing intuitive art, and I'm just going to walk through one with you. And third graders, I'm going to go ahead and send some stuff home for you, some little pieces of scrap paper, painted paper, and a couple fun other things that you can use to make your own. As for everybody else, you can use whatever you have at home, scrap paper, newspaper, pieces of art that you've made before that you can cut up. You can use any type of tools that you want. I have here oil pastels, regular paints, I have watercolors, I have these really neat watercolor crayons. If you've never used those, they are super fun to play with. I have some black ink and even a little bit of glitter. So let's get started. Okay, so I have this handy dandy little helpful paper as we go along. With our abstract art, we're going to work with primarily organic shapes. And if you remember, those are free-form shapes. They're not regular shapes like hearts and stars and squares. They are more round, curvy edges, and they often mimic things in nature like flowers and leaves. Here are some pattern ideas that you can use in your art. And we can use free-form lines, which I usually add at the very end with a Sharpie or some black ink. So I'm going to start with just a small piece of paper. This is just mixed media paper from a journal. You can use whatever kind of paper you have handy. Would help if I had paintbrushes. Okay, so I have my paintbrushes and I have my tempera paint and my watercolor paint. So I'm going to start with just some basic shapes kind of as our base for our picture. So let's see, we'll start with a yellow, just kind of happy shape right here. The good thing about organic shapes is that there's no wrong way to do it, so they can just kind of look however you want. Okay, and I'm just going to grab my pink with the same paintbrush here, and I'm going to add another shape. I don't mind letting my colors mix a little bit, but if you want to keep those colors separate, you can always use a separate brush. Okay, now I'm going to use a little watercolor. Now again, abstract art is just playing around with whatever you have. So you can do this any way that you want. Add a curvy line here and maybe some little marks up here. Can even make them right on top of the yellow a little bit there. I'm going to use a watercolor crayon, and these are neat. You can color with them just like regular crayons, but then if you add water, it blends them a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of make a spiral kind of shape over here with my watercolor crayon, and then I can take my wet brush and it will make my crayon color bleed just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to take my black ink and I'm going to add some of these little patterns over here. I like the contrast of the really dark black on top of these other colors. So let's see, we'll use this kind of V pattern here. you don't have black ink, you can use black paint, you can use Sharpie, you can even use a black marker once your other stuff is dry if you want. So I've added some squiggly lines with my black. Now I'm going to use an oil pastel and just kind of add a few more things, a little bit of color over here, and maybe one more color with my acrylic paint over here. I like to use different types of paint because they have a different texture, and they also have, each different brush gives a different effect, and I kind of like this messy look, kind of sweeping color over here. The last thing I'm going to add is a few pieces of just little embellishments. I found this really fun shiny paper. I don't even know what it's for, but I'm going to use a piece of that to just add a little shine over here. And this is a piece of painted paper that I cut into a heart, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw that on here too. And the absolute last touch is I'm going to add a little bit of glitter, because any kind of texture and sparkle will add a little visual interest as well. So there you have it, my abstract intuitive art. So there you have it. Can't wait to see what you do. Don't forget to send me pictures of the art that you complete. Hope you are all well, and we'll see you next time.